So without further ado, Ken Williams.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Paid that man $5 for that applause. I appreciate it. Good afternoon. It is a real pleasure to be back here with McGraw Hill and the folks they attract to this kind of work. I feel very honored and privileged every time I get a call, no matter where it is in the country. I tell my assistant, when McGraw Hill calls, you know, the date's open. I said, but you're actually booked. Unbook me. The date's open. So it's a real pleasure to be back. Welcome to Disruptors or Defenders. How will math and science teachers, well, who would they choose to be? And we're going to have more of a dialogue and a conversation this afternoon. I put this together just for this conference. This is not a well-worn keynote that I've done in the past. I just felt compelled in terms of how important teachers are. And I'm watching two of my kids go through school now, so we'll talk about it. A little bit about me. I'm originally from New York City, and I was told that this would go over well. Go Giants? No? Feel some negativity in the audience? All right. All right, let's start over. I'm Ken Williams, and yeah, I'm originally from New York. I live just outside Atlanta, Georgia, and a lot of the time I live on Delta Airlines. I travel North America, all over doing this kind of work full time. I'm the husband of one, father of two. My wife is a 5th grade teacher, so we got a house full of educators, which is awesome, and she's a great teacher. I mean, I don't say that because I like to come home at night. She's a great teacher. Like, she's a great teacher that makes me want to apologize to kids I taught, and I thought I was pretty good, you know? She's a great teacher, and so I appreciate that. Our kids, our son is 18 and is taking a gap year from college, working full time, and I think he's going to enter into the medical field at some point to pursue a license in registered nursing. And our daughter is 17, and she's looking at very expensive colleges, and I'm trying to figure out how that works as well. They're all very supportive of the work. The only quibble they have are the pictures I use. They're not, because they look malnourished in this picture, because he doesn't look 18 and she doesn't look 17, and they squabble about that. So I compromise, and I show this one where he looks more like he's 18. And she, in that picture, is no longer built like her brother, which is what Daddy likes. Daddy likes when she's built like her brother. Daddy likes this, all right? And at 17, I'm telling you, I'm getting a lot of this these days, and I don't know what to do about it, because apparently buying more guns does not solve the problem. I keep spending money on firearms, and I show how they work and everything, and nothing affects her. My wife, honestly, is pretty ageless. She is very health conscious and takes care of herself and likes to exercise, like she likes it. And so she's ageless no matter what picture I show. However, I'm not ageless. I'm fighting Father Time every day, which is why I use this picture to show our family off. Because in that picture, the light's hitting the brother just right in that picture. And my goatee's all black, like there's no gray or anything. It's just, I'm like my old uncles who get stuck in the area they thought they looked best. Like that to me, that's a great picture of me. So my kids pay no bills in my house, and so I get to determine what pictures get shown. With only an hour, I'm going to jump right into it. And in the description of our session, I use this quote from Einstein, who, by the way, came to literacy late, was told that he would never achieve, failed his college entrance exams, but worked like a dog at what he was passionate about. Worked like a dog at what he was passionate about. And so I'm going to ask you to suspend some of our beliefs and paradigms just for a little bit and consider some things, especially mathematics and science teachers. I think you're uniquely positioned to really lead this revolution in the way we think about how kids learn. And so I'm going to ask you to suspend that. I'm going to open with a video. It's a Google commercial. All I want you to do is think about what resonates with you, and I'll probably give you about 45 seconds to turn to a neighbor and talk about what resonated with you from this clip.
Imagine the awesomest thing you can, like an automatic grilled cheese maker, or a time machine, or a time machine with an automatic grilled cheese maker. Now imagine who's going to invent it. Him? Glasses here? Whoever they are? Or maybe her? But how do kids like these become the types of people that do things like this? Maybe we should ask this guy.
Knowledge is heavy. Sometimes it's a limit to have new ideas. That's the problem with the old schooling, because they were teaching answers. I believe questions are probably more important today than the answers.
Erno's cube is a question waiting to be answered. And when the right person finds the right question, something amazing happens. They start seeing the world as it truly is. Not a place to be memorized, but a place to be figured out, flipped, turned, twisted, and ultimately made better, forever. Today, she may be an octopus, but help kids like her fall in love with problem solving, and they will embark on journeys to become scientists, artists, engineers, designers, inventors, or something no one's ever been before, but you can bet we're gonna need. That's why moments like this,
Go!
and this, and this, and especially this, are so important. Because there are companies to found, planets to walk on, time machines to invent, a future to be made amazing. We may not know what it's going to look like, but we know who's going to do it.
So I'm going to ask for a few of you to respond, and I think we've got a mic. You're going to wait for Meredith, but I'd love to hear from you. So just awkward silences don't bother me at all. I will wait them out. Yes, sir.
So what resonated with me was how it made very clear that pictures of success, especially in STEM, are often stereotypically white men with gray hair and glasses. So I think it's really important to change the paradigm of what vision of success looks like. Not just success, but just what STEM and science and ingenuity and innovation look like. It can be with anybody. Students of color really need to see these images of success in their classrooms, in their districts, in their communities, et cetera.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you for being our first risk taker. I'm going to ask for your name and contact information. I'm going to send you a copy of my book, Starting Movement, for being the first one to kind of break the ice here. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. I need a couple more responses, and I don't have any more books to give away either, so just, but I need two more. Yes.
Well, for me, I think when I think about professional development for teachers, because that's what I do, I'm a curriculum director, I think it's really important to make sure that teachers are trained in the craft of questioning. And not only how to ask the right questions, but have students ask the right questions. So it's a reciprocal partnership.
Absolutely.
And it's all about the feedback that we give kids in order for them to be more inquisitive.
That's right.
So this just validates what we've been, really hearing today.
That's right.
And how important that is for student achievement.
Yeah, and a huge skill, one that has to be honed. I mean, we're not natural questioners, I'll take one more from somewhere in here. I've got a teammate right over here.
I think another piece is just making sure that teachers understand the importance of helping kids fall in love with the process of problem solving. And it's not something that comes natural because we want to give answers to students, but really giving them that opportunity to solve it themselves.
Yeah, I love it. And I have a colleague out of Canada, George Kuros, who would take it a step further and say we need to get kids to become problem finders. As innovative as our world is, we're preparing them for jobs and careers that don't even exist yet. And when I think about Google, Google's a verb now. It's a verb, like blog, like that's a career for some people. It's amazing. You know what I also see in that video? I see kids that I taught over the years, and I see them from all sorts of income backgrounds, all sorts of ethnic backgrounds, and what I'm reminded of is what Yvette Jackson talked about in her book, The Pedagogy of Confidence, and that is the brain craves enrichment, and that kids grow from their strengths. And we've got to look for the gifts in kids and not just seek out the quote-unquote gifted. And I think about that, and I see my kids, and some of them from the hood, and some of them from very stable homes, and some of them are from homes on golf courses. They're all there, and they're all engaged. And that's what I want to talk with you about today. That's what I want to talk with you about today. Are we going to defend or disrupt the status quo? And the status quo of which I speak is rooted in the innate intelligence paradigm. And we're going to talk about that. But first, I'd like to engage you. And it looks like you have on your table pens and markers and things like that. I'm going to need you to write just for a second. Feel free to use a device, but I do need you to publish. I need you to write. I'm going to put the question on the screen. Don't tell me that the answer's in my head. It's not in your head. Write it down. I need you to write. All right? I'm only going to give you a minute, but I'm going to ask you not to start until I explain this. All right? Here's what I'd like to do. I'd like you to answer this question for me, but don't start until I've explained it. What do you want school to provide your child? Now, if you're a parent, think about your child or children. If you're not a parent, think about a child so special in your life, you can use that child as a prism through which to answer this question. Now, before you start, here's the one caveat. I want you to answer this question alone, individually. Don't consult, don't collaborate, don't share, and you've got to answer it in one sentence and not a run-on sentence. So I'm going to give you about 60 seconds to pen an answer. What do you want school to provide your child? And go. Of course, I can't read the sentences from here, but I can see you writing. I see a lot of folks are done. I see some folks are still writing some ambitious sentences. 4 and 5 lines, one sentence, 4 and 5 lines. And I can read the looks on their faces as they write. I'm talking about my baby. He's not going to stop me from talking about my baby. If I want to write 4 lines, I'm going to write 4 lines. All right. I'd like to hear a few. So once again, Meredith's going to come to you with the mic, and would love for you to just share your statement.
Sure, I said a passion for continuing to explore what already interests her and the capacity to find new interests in which to develop future passions.
Awesome. Give them a 1 clap on 3. 1, 2, 3. Fantastic. That will get better, those 1 claps. Formative assessment. All right, let's find someone at the back table. Right there, so you don't have to walk too far, Meredith.
Yes, I want an opportunity to become problem solvers and become lifelong learners.
Great. 1 clap on 3. 1, 2, 3. Take a few more.
All students deserve a place where people care about them and provide equitable, rigorous, and excellent experiences.
Great. 1 clap on 3. 1, 2, 3.
I want school to provide my grandchild an avenue to dream big so that she has the tools to achieve big.
1 clap on 3. 1, 2, 3. And she emphasized grandchild on that one. Because she got the whole oil of Olay thing happening. I'll have what you're having in the morning if you have a grandchild.
I want schools to make my child feel comfortable with being uncomfortable.
1 clap on 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, so I only have an hour with you. But have you ever asked a question in class and you didn't get the answer you want, so you continue to ask and ask and ask and ask? That's what I want to do, but I don't have time to do it. But I want to so badly because I'm not getting what I'm looking for. However, all these are phenomenal. Like, as a former school principal, I could build a school around any one of those statements, from the ones that were short to the ones that were lengthier. I could absolutely build a school. I could send my kid to a school. If I knew a school used that statement as the lens through which everything was done, all decisions were made, I could send my kid there, and I couldn't care less where it was located, but I'm not hearing what I was looking for. I was looking for statements like, and I hope my school has 3 low groups so that my child feels like they can never achieve at high levels, and I hope there's an air of sympathy to the point we dumb it down so that our kids don't achieve, and my child's not a great reader, so I hope there's a low, I hope there's a really, 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 really low group. I hope they're 5 levels, and then my child's not great at mathematics, so I hope they're 5 levels below algebra, and then one day when they're an adult, maybe they'll get to algebra, which we say is required and stuff. And I hope they do a good job of feeling sorry for my child no matter, because we're from a tough neighborhood, and it would be great if they would just hug her and work on her self-esteem. Like, I didn't hear any of that. And last I checked, there are no perfect kids. There are no perfect kids. I do have the elite group, don't I? I've asked that question of tens of thousands of educators, and I've only gotten responses like the ones you gave, absolutes. Ones where, I mean, anyone can build a school around it. No exceptions. No exceptions. No one asked for labels. Ooh, please give my child a label that will stick with them like crazy glue for the rest of their lives. Please call them smart to the point where they won't want to take any more risks. Please make everything about the right answer, not the process. I love that sticker. Greatness is a process. I don't ever get that. I don't ever get that on these responses. And yet, when I work in schools and districts all over, I find that these paradigms still persist. And so one of the things I want us to think about while we're together today is this notion, a quote by Becky DeFore. Because if I had time, I'd have you sit and reflect on, is your school or the schools you serve or the district you serve, is it operating the way you state on paper for all kids? So your kids and the kids you love and the kids you serve and your grandkids, kids that are influenced by us, I mean, in some ways, man, they're born on a 2-yard line, man. They've got some great advantages because we know what questions to ask. Right? Doesn't matter, you can walk into a school, doesn't matter how many sweet posters and banners and the great borders they have up and all the great signs, it doesn't matter. You can look past all that stuff within 5 minutes and know what's going on at that school, don't you? Isn't that right? You know this. And so we have great advantages. Our kids have great advantages. My concern is for the kids who don't have that kind of advocacy at home. Are we their advocates? Are we mining for gold? Are we willing to disrupt the status quo that's sending a message to so many kids that your intelligence is fixed? Because that's what happens when we assign and ascribe these groupings to kids. We're telling them up front, your intelligence is fixed and limited. And I don't think we have any idea the harm we do, even though we give them nice names like the dragons and the panthers and like ferocious animal names. Or other ways we do it, whether we create these classes. Like I always tease, like there are 5 algebras before algebra. So I want us to think about that. Turn to a neighbor, take 30 seconds. Regarding your statement, is your school or district operating through that lens? Take 30 seconds, go. All right, I'm going to invite you to put a period on that last sentence. And have you think about some things. How many are familiar in some way, shape, or form, even cursory familiarity with Carol Dweck's work on mindset? Just about everyone in here, This research that she did for decades that proved that the brain has neuroplasticity, that we have the ability to form new pathways through work and effort, through the right work, right effort, and right practice, that we can forge new pathways. Much like when we learn something new and we do it enough, it becomes almost automatic for us. And what that did, it sounds really good, and we like hearing about it, and I go to many schools and say, yeah, our teachers and our staff and our principals, we really embrace, the whole growth mindset idea. But oftentimes we're not sure how to manifest that in the classrooms because we still have policies and practices and paradigms that fly in the face of that. And I just want to highlight a few. And I really believe, not only through my own work, but through reading and researching, that mathematics and science teachers are best positioned to really turn this tide. Because more than any other subject areas, more than any other disciplines, when students are asked what their what the objective is for a course. When it's a mathematics and science course, more times than not, they cite getting the right answer. And I know that that would feel like, that would really bother me. That bothers me. I'm a teacher. That bothers me. That with history, it's different. It depends on the subject matter, and with reading, it might be different, or literature. But with mathematics and science, it's often getting the right answer. And I keep going back to that greatness is a process. And I believe you're in your best position because both your disciplines afford students the opportunity to demonstrate mastery through performance. And through performance, you can provide feedback, as our teammate talked about. And through feedback, you can awaken inquisitiveness in kids and show progressive improvement and give opportunities for growth. But we got to shift some paradigms that are pretty pervasive in our schools. And I want to talk about just a few of them, talking about defenders of that status quo. That first one is the innate ability paradigm, the idea that kids either have it or they don't. And we manifest it in a bunch of different ways. That kids either have it or they don't. Now, Dweck's research shows that the brain is a muscle, and we can improve it, and we can build it, and we can strengthen it. But we got to lay a foundation where kids know that that's possible. But when kids walk in and we immediately start with this, we are consumed with ranking, sorting, and selecting kids. We cannot wait to find that low group. We cannot wait to find that high group. Some research that shows that when 10 kids are lined up in front of teachers, that automatically our minds go this way. We see 10 kids that we've never read a folder on or anything. We think to ourselves, all right. There've got to be 3 groups there. There've got to be 2 VSs, 6 SSs, and 2 KDs in that group. There got to be 2 VS, got to be 2 very smart kids in that group out of 10. There got to be 6 sort of smart kids in that group out of 10. And there got to be 2 kind of dumbs in there somewhere. There got to be 2 kind of dumbs. It's where our mind goes. We are slaves to that bell-shaped curve. And it plagues us, that ranking, sorting, and selecting, and what it does to our psyche. I've done this with adults before. I've had them walk in after lunch. So here's a question. So here's just a quick question. Let's say I've been working with you all day, and around lunchtime, I gave you 3 questions based on the morning's work, and an index card to ask you to answer those 3 questions. Quick multiple choice, right? And that's your exit ticket. I stand in the back, you walk out, you hand me your cards, you go to lunch for an hour. What would you expect me to do with those cards while you're at lunch? Yeah, like quickly score them, right? So I'm looking, I can see, just 3 multiple choice, I'm going through them. Let's say during that hour, I figure out that 75% of you missed question 1. 75% of you missed question 1 based on the work I presented in the morning. Turn to a neighbor, take 10 seconds. What would you expect me to do with that information? All right, I'm going to invite you back. What would you expect me to do with that information? I've heard several people say reteach it. Right, I come back and I realize, so you'd expect me to change what I'm doing. You'd expect me to make some adjustment in the afternoon, right, in a formative way. Stop and say, wow, they did not get that. That's good, that's good. That's what you should expect, especially if I share the data with you. You should expect that. And then I should be able to kind of assess at the end of the day whether or not more of you got question 1. That should be my objective. And if you don't, I got to find some ways to supplement that, whether it's give you my contact information or contact me later or here's something else. And my question is, do we take that approach in schools? Suppose you came back from lunch and I instead divide the room into 3 parts. Right? Or maybe at the beginning of the day, I separate you by your parents' income. I have you circle like how much money your parents made, and I set you in those sections accordingly. But what I've done with adults is I come back and I'll divide the room into 3 parts, and I will, so at the top of your index card, I'll put 1 or 3 marks, like so a blue dot, a green dot, or a red dot. So I'll say the blue dots sit in this section, the green dots here, and the red dots over in this section. And the blue dots, I'm going to continue speaking at this cadence, using the same vocabulary, speaking at this pace. The green dots, I may slow things down a little bit, let things marinate for a second, let you just think about it for a moment. You may need an extra minute or 2. And for the red dots, I might just give you all something to color for the afternoon. Just something to color, I don't know. How do you think that might go over? Not too good. And so I don't stop to think about where you're from, or is this that class? Oh, I've done several things from McGraw Hill. I've never had a group like this. That must be that class. I mean, my last year's McGraw Hill group was great, but this year's 75% wrong. Oh, I heard about that class coming up, though. Someone told me. Chris worked with them last year. He told me, you got that group coming up. They're a low group. Oh, my goodness. That's what we do. That's what we do. We rank, sort, and select. But you'd never accept that. And would you agree that we're all in different places in our career? That some of us have skill sets that are advanced in some areas and we're struggling in others? Of course. But I got a place where all of you need to go today. I've got a place where you all have to go. And so we've got to stop betting so much on background, income, race, labels, language, and deficits. And I don't mean malicious. We do it with love in our hearts. That's the real dangerous part. I'm not talking about racism or prejudice. I'm talking about those subtle biases that affect how we operate. I call it death by sweet and low, misplaced sympathy. It's the worst. It's the worst in my opinion because it's almost like carbon monoxide. Like you can't see it. Like out and out prejudice or xenophobia or your prejudice against folks who don't speak the King's English when they step into the country, that is blatant. I can see that. I can at least grab that and we can talk about it. But that misplaced sympathy, man, it's like carbon monoxide, that invisible gas. You can't smell it, you can't see it, but it's going to choke you out. And it's that way because it's couched in love. I work with a phenomenal principal who admitted after doing some workshops with me that when she saw kids lined up for lunch and she would go by and do quick mathematics problems, quick problems, that she found that her kids who speak a second language, she would make the problem easier so they felt successful. She found that. Which if you say it fast enough and with enough confidence, sounds like it's okay. But we're doing kids no favors. We're crippling them for life. If we don't make mistakes and learning a part of the process, we're in trouble. We are in trouble. This is a big one also. I find a lot of defenders are guardians of the gift. It's my duty as a science and mathematics teacher to, of course, teach all these kids. But I need to find the ones with the gift and guard the gate. I've known teachers who take pride in their failure rate because they believe they're all about guarding the gift. That some have a gift and some don't. Now, is there a point where some kids demonstrate real serious proficiency? Of course. Of course. But there's got to be a bar close by where all kids have to go. And unless you're working in schools where the houses are located on golf courses and kids have all sorts of advantages, we got to find the gold. We got to find it. Like diamonds start out as coal. But if you're a fixed mindset and believe that there's only a certain number of this group, there are only a certain number of quote unquote gifted kids, then that's what you'll look for. And you will find what you look for every time. You'll find what you look for every time. So that's what guardians of the gift looks like on one hand. On the other hand, in our society, we believe that you have literacy as a strength or mathematics and science as a strength, but not both. And we talk ourselves into it, and we say it as adults, and we reinforce it. And a lot of our parents believe it. And we got kids believing it. We got kids believing it. Well, I refuse it. As soon as I read Carol Dweck's work, we stopped doing 2 things as parents. One, we stopped calling our kids smart in isolation. Stopped it. We stopped it. Because all that did, I stopped. We stopped. I stopped telling my daughter she's smart because she came from a brilliant dad. I stopped it. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. It was not easy. Even though her mom got a whole lot better grades than I did. But I was like, but some of that's charisma though. But some of mine is charisma. That counts for. We stopped. And every compliment we give now is associated with effort. Every piece of feedback we give is associated with a lack of effort. If your grades improved, tell us why. If your grades declined, is it because of the increased rigor, increased challenge, or did you not follow through on the study skills, follow up with the teacher when she said she'd see you after school, whatever it was. Even with teachers, when I talk with teachers, they get a bump in achievement. That's awesome, let's celebrate. Now tell me 3 things you either did, knew, or continued to make that happen. And teachers, we're horrible. We're horrible giving ourselves credit. We're horrible. And so I press teachers to the point of awkwardness to find out what is it that you did as a team to either maintain, improve what was going on. Because the answers are in the room. They're not in the community, they're not in kids' income, they're not in their backgrounds. The backgrounds only give us context. They provide context to frame our response. And the question is, how do we respond to our kids who are struggling while keeping the bar where it needs to be? But Mia, I wouldn't, and I'm pointing out Mia. My son's very capable. He's got his own gifts. Mia eats books. We heard that It, or the Stephen King It, is going to be remade. I didn't see the first one, and I heard I didn't miss much. But anyway, I was like, oh man, this is an opportunity to buy Stephen King's It and read it with my daughter. So I was slick. I bought the book first. First of all, it's about that thick. Honest to God, it's in my hotel. It's about that. It's like 1,100 pages. So I was like, shoot, I'm gonna get a head start. So I got 150 pages ahead of her, and then gave her the idea. That's what I'm horrible. I got 150 pages ahead and said, oh, baby, you know what? I think it'd be great if we both read this book. She was like, oh, that's awesome. So then it took like 3 more days for it to get here from Amazon. So I got more pages read, thinking I'm gonna get, this is good. I'm on page 612, and she was done a week ago. Now, she's that kid that you'd look at and you'd say, that's a literacy kid. She's about reading and drama and theater and acting and all those things. But we invite her and encourage her and push her to reach outside her comfort zone and excel in mathematics and science as well. So she's well-rounded in all areas. We refuse to let her listen to or have that message drummed into her that she's either one or the other. She's both. She's all 3. And I'm not saying that like, she's awesomely, superiorly gifted and has these special brain cells. She's a regular kid. She just works hard. She knows how to do school, and she works at it. And so I want us to get rid of that paradigm. Here's something to think about in terms of our language, marginalizing language. I believe this. We've never looked at a group and called them low or lower level and ever expected them to learn high levels. Never. And so I want us to think about that. Let's talk about those disruptors, the folks in this room, the folks who take time out of their schedule. Either you're getting close to the end of the school year, or at the end, you're just starting your summer, and you've taken 2 days to come and work together and collaborate. Let's talk about the disruptors, the folks we have in this room. Disruptors are all about that growth mindset, that they believe that the brain is a muscle we can grow. You got a mind for some genius. Mind for it. There are courses I excelled in just because of teachers' enthusiasm, and they had the nerve to believe I could do it. I believe every one of us, if you had time to reflect, you have people in your lives who saw more in you than you see in yourselves, who believe more in you than you believe in yourself. And you don't know why, and you're not sure what they were thinking, but when they give you a challenge to reach outside your comfort zone, what do? You walk away saying, I'm not sure why he thinks that, but I gotta do it. What am I gonna do, right? It just wasn't somebody on the street who said I can do it. Like, that person's an influencer. Sister Mary Claire, my second grade teacher, if she said, I think you can go 90 degrees on a bend and run through that wall, I swear to you, I'd try it. Now, I don't believe she would abuse her influence in that way, but that's the kind of influence she has in my life. I would try it because she made me feel like $1 million. And we keep in touch to this day. And she's been a nun 53 years and just retired from teaching. And we go hang out in Long Island. And she keeps asking, what did I do? What did I do? I was like, don't worry about it. I'm paying for dinner. Just enjoy. But amazing people like that make kids believe they can do anything. All the research I've done, we and England, we're probably in second place, but Great Britain's in first place in terms of that stacking and tracking, ability grouping, fixed mindset, grouping kids from the time they're able to walk. They are the biggest offenders. We're not too far behind. Japan, ironically, and no country is perfect, but among other things, they don't believe in that. They believe they can hurt kids social emotionally, and there are places every kid has to go, and every kid has an opportunity to grow. So here's what disruptors do. They plan at the highest level of every standard. I love Joe Bowler's work. I think it applies to mathematics and science in every subject area, and one of the things she talks about is eliminate tracking. There's no tracking in here today. I plan at the highest level of the standard. I'm going to scaffold. Some of you are going to walk out of here and get exactly what I'm saying. Some of you are going to need time just because of your wiring to reflect on things. Others are going to need more information because all I have is an hour. I'm going to provide all three of those things. If you get it, great. If you want to talk with me later, great. If you want to contact me after this to talk further, fantastic. If I don't have the answer, I'll find it for you. If it's not my area of expertise, I'll find the person. But today, I'm going to teach at the highest level of the standard and scaffold as appropriate. That's what disruptors do. The highest level of every standard. No tracking. You know, struggling learners, you know how to get better. The research that shows that they accelerate most when they have opportunities to learn and work at high levels. I don't know why we have in our heads that we think they're going to die. But when they have opportunities to work at high levels, which your disciplines provide great, phenomenal opportunities to do, they learn at high levels. Here's another thing disruptors do. They assume nothing. They assume nothing and focus on all students mastering the essentials. They teach to the depth and complexity of every standard while providing support. Teach to the depth and complexity of every standard while providing support. That's how you learn. We do professional development. That's how you learn. There are rarely homogeneous groups when you do this kind of work. We're almost always heterogeneous groups learning from each other. And here's where you are uniquely positioned. Because if we can get away from mathematics and science being about the right answer and being about process and learning and feedback and context and problem solving and problem finders, you'll open up a whole new world. You'll open up a whole new world. Disruptors bet on strengths. Their strengths are strengths as a staff and student strengths. Here's some research going to blow your mind. I already hinted at it. It's going to blow your mind. Struggling learners learn best when we find out what their strengths are and use their strengths to bolster their weak areas. But that's not what we do in schools. With love and great effort, We get kids who are struggling learners and we bombard them and bathe them in their weak areas all day long. All day long, to the point now where we're selling ourselves on this new narrative where a little tiny bit of growth is okay. Like you gave this much effort and the kid grew this much. You're like, we need to celebrate that because this is about the kid growing. No. You know that's not enough. You know that kind of growth wasn't commensurate with that kind of effort, right? That kind of manpower, woman power, the hours we put in. But a piece of it is we bathe them in their weaknesses all day. Who's been to a job interview? Who's been to a job interview, you walk in, there's a panel. So you walk in and the panel says, well, tell us about you and what you bring to the table. And you say, well, before I get to that panel, may I please take 5 minutes to tell you all the areas that I suck at? Can I please tell you that? Can we do that first? All the areas where I stink, can I go over those first and then maybe my strength areas? No one does that. We lead with strengths. So let's find out what their strengths are and use that to strengthen their weaker areas. But we got to believe they have strengths. Got to believe they have strengths. Here's another thing disruptors do. They bet on me. They bet on me. Like each individual teacher, and no matter what your role is, no matter where you are as a stakeholder, they bet on me. They have a high sense of self-efficacy. And I don't want to sound like, that I know everything. I don't. That I was the greatest teacher in the world. I wasn't. There's always things to learn. But I can tell you what I walked in with. Honest to God, and I still have it to this day. Groups like that never even occurred to me. I thought I didn't believe I could make a difference as a teacher. I thought I was the difference. I literally thought it didn't matter. Like when, I was a fourth grade teacher and a middle school teacher, but you get that new roster of kids, and then you see your teammate, like from last year, like the teacher from the grade level below, they come down the hall ready to tell you about all the kids who were on wanted posters last year. I see, no, I'm good. Tabula rasa, baby, blank slate. I said, I need to know about two things. Allergies and custody. That's all I need to know about from those folders. Allergies and custody. If they can't eat peanuts, I need to know that. No Snickers in the classroom. And custody. If Uncle Dub is not supposed to come pick up those kids, then Uncle Dub is not supposed to come pick up those kids. Outside of that, bring them in. Bring them in. They're mine. And I thought I was a legit badass. I really did. I thought I could influence any kid. I really did. That's my first class of students. Looks like the shades of Benetton. Man, 1992, baby. Brother had hair, sideburns, man. I was the youngest teacher on staff. Who's ever been the youngest teacher on staff? I was the youngest teacher on staff. You get a 2-year grace period. It's like, oh, he's new. Like everything you do is dumb. Oh, he's new. They excused everything. Man, I thought I was going to be the youngest teacher forever. I really did. I thought I was going to be the youngest teacher on staff forever. By year 3, they were like, okay, you're not new anymore, and you're making that same mistake, brother. Get it together. But I look at those kids, man, and listen, I got kids in there who are barely reading novels, who are barely writing, who could write books, and it didn't matter to me. I thought I was the baddest man on earth, and that's how I operated. I didn't know what I didn't know. I hadn't heard of Asperger's. But I found out I got a kid in there who I guess has Asperger's or something on the spectrum. I didn't know. I just figured out how to deal with him, how to deal without lowering the standard. And then when I realized one day that I did not have the tools to ensure every student learned at high levels, that's when I learned to bet on we. That's how I learned about collaboration. If I don't have the answer, you might. Let's sit down and talk about it. But the idea that some kid was going to fall through my cracks, that was not even an option. It was not even an option. And I felt the same way as a principal, because teachers became my students. And I coached them up and supported them. Everything you want of significance sits right outside your comfort zone, and I nudge every one of them outside their comfort zone, including myself. So I want you to hang on to this one. It's the truth. And you're not supposed to read slides of folks who can read, but I'm going to read this one to add some dramatic emphasis. No child has ever died from high expectations heaped upon them by caring educators. None. No one. There are no movies, no documentaries, no TED Talks. None. No kids got up and said, and my teachers thought so much of me, and if I messed up in her class, she knew about it, and they stayed on me, and they kept saying they believed in me, and they insisted I get the work done. And even though I was from the hood, they insisted I take AP classes and IB this, and look at me now with my career and advanced degrees. There are no movies like that. There are none. If you care to ensure that all kids learn and you work collaboratively with your team and you provide some scaffolding and you let a kid know, because kids know, man, kids are the best BS detectors on earth. I don't care how much you know your discipline. I don't care how much you love science, how much you love mathematics. I don't care. Kids know when they walk in. All a kid wants to know initially, they're not looking on the board to see what the objective is. They're looking at you. And all I want to know, do I believe she believes in me? That's it. That's it. And you don't have to be from their hood to get that across to kids. You don't have to have grown up. You could have grown up on the other side of the tracks. I don't believe in that. When you have some things in common with kids, is it a foot in the door? Of course it is. Is it a guarantee? No. I'm from the hood, and my first assignment was in a town like Mayberry. And I was like, you don't realize I'm from the hood, right? Like, I got the whole, I know what I'm, and you got a whole section of the county that's straight hood. I'm thinking, like, they put me up in, like, Mayberry, little dry town. Like all the streets were named for kids' grandparents and stuff like that. That's my granddaddy's road, and he named that street after me. Like that. Like they'd never seen an administrator of color in the 70-year existence of the school. And I would stand out on everybody's Christmas and Hanukkah and well, not the Kwanzaa pictures, but the Hanukkah and the Christmas pictures. But after 2 weeks of us looking at strangers at each other, me figuring out what the norms were in that community, I was Mr. Will. I was the big daddy, and I defended those kids like a papa bear. They were mine. And when I ended up in Atlanta, 95% free and reduced lunch, 95% farms, they were mine. They were ours. And we are the influencers, and we're the reason we're going to operate like an academy. The thought of letting some kid's background determine whether they're going to be successful is just, I can't even get my head wrapped around that. Especially now that I know how to collaborate. I can't get my head wrapped around that. And so that's when we learn to bet on we. I acknowledge that in every curricular area, there's a point where some kids are going to show like high levels of proficiency and interest. I get that. But there's also a place where all kids have to go. And so I'm going to very quickly use this example that I use in a lot of my talks. And that is to talk about Starbucks. But first, here's a question for you. How do you meet the needs of both your gifted and ungifted students? Take 30 seconds. How do you meet the needs of, I know how most schools meet the needs of the gifted students. Talk about the ungifted. Just 30 seconds. I know it's awkward. Just turn to one another. All right. I'm going to invite you back. I sure wish I had time to take some responses. That question usually elicits some. Now, we're not in denial, are we? We realize that when we tout these gifted programs, we're literally saying that they're kids that are ungifted. You realize that? My wife almost banned me from our kids' awards assemblies because they bring out gifted English, gifted science, come on out, get your awards, and the pretty paper. They trot them out in the middle of the gym. And then I think my voice, well, I learned my voice carries. So I said in the audience, bring out the ungifted. Bring them out. Give them their awards on crumpled up paper bags that have been flattened out and write with magic marker with a Sharpie. Good job. Are there students that show proficiency, like keen interest in specific areas? Yes, sure. But when we label, see, labels are fine until they affect our expectations. As soon as you label a group gifted, you are telling everyone else that they are not. And as soon as we sell ourselves on that, you become less of an influencer and more of a sifter. You just start sifting. See if I can find them. I want to get back to badass, but we bet on me. Like, I'm the influencer, man. I'm not even going to find the gifts that are obvious. I'm going to find the ones that are not obvious. I'm going to dig for them because everybody's got them. See, I believe if we got enough boxes to check on a page, everybody have a box checked under special needs, and everybody would have some boxes checked under gifted. I treated every kid like they were special needs and gifted, every one of them. Every one of them. I would lie to them every year and tell them like I hand-selected you. I told this one lie. I shouldn't be telling all these stories, but I am going to tell this one. So in the 90s, Power Rangers, I know they make a big comeback now, but they were huge in the 90s. They had a show and everything, and they had this movie. And so I just got hired. I got hired late. And I ended up there, and the kids were like, tell us about you. And I was like, well, I just came from Hollywood. And they're like, Hollywood? What? Tell us more, Mr. Will. And I was like, nah, tomorrow I'll tell you. Got to leave suspense. Next day I told them, I said, listen, so I've done a little acting after graduate school. And I said, I tried out for this role, and on the day that I was offered the role, I also got a call from Montgomery County Public Schools, and they sent me like a folder with all your pictures in it, and I was like, wow, I got a choice. And they're like, what was the role? And I was like, well, you see the Power Rangers, right? Red, yellow, pink, blue, green. I said, they had a brown Power Ranger they wanted. I was gonna be the brown Power Ranger. And so like half the kids were like, whatever. But the other sweet half were like, what? And I'm riding that lie today. Like 2 years ago, kids hit me up on Facebook, 32 years old with kids, like their career and a house. Gabby Parr was like, hey, Mr. Will, how's it going? I said, great, Gabby, you look great. Love your family. Give them my love. I got Curtis here too. I'm tagging Curtis in this. Can you just tell us about, I was gonna be the brown Power Ranger, baby. Click, log off, and that was it. I was like, that's it, what you want me to say? And so Joe Bowler, and I agree, we gotta get rid of those labels. I have not seen anything happening in a gifted program that all kids shouldn't have access to. If some show more proficiency, great. You know what I'm saying? If some show more proficiency in that area, but we cannot have these like closed off standards and opportunities for just some kids. There's still room above for kids who want to go to the moon with it. All right, I need to do a time check. Megan. Dadgummit. It's time? I thought you were going to say it's 5 minutes. 5? Can you have 5 minutes? Let's go, 5 minutes, really quick. All right, so listen, I love Starbucks. I love the caramel macchiato. It's my drink of choice, baby. This is how it's made. We're gonna do this quick. This is how it's made, 5 steps. Let's call these the essential standards of a caramel macchiato. You got me? So I go into a local Starbucks, and what's your name? Nicole waits on me. She's great. Gives me a smile, makes my caramel macchiato extra hot the way I like it. I walk out, I take a sip, and whoo, something doesn't taste right. But it should, because Starbucks is a really, really reliable franchise. So I take another sip, and whoo, my whole face dries out, much like scorched earth. That picture, like all that oil of Olay, all that regimen gone, all of it gone. I go back into the Starbucks, I talk to the manager whose name is Miss Johnson, and she sees me walk in, and she's already nervous, because managers don't like to see you walk in with the product. So she said, what's going on? What's wrong? And I said, my coffee, I realize it's got a half inch of salt in it. And there's no salt in that recipe. So she takes me aside and says, well, tell me what happened. I said, well, Nicole waited on me. She was fantastic. She said, oh, we got 2 Nicoles. Was it this Nicole or that Nicole? I said, that Nicole. She said, that Nicole? I said, yeah. She said, ooh, let's take a walk. She said, that Nicole, she's wonderful, we love her, but when she was in school, she had what they call an IEP, some learning challenges. And she's explaining all of what that is. She asked me what I do for a living. I said, I'm an educator, so I got you, I understand it. You're probably going to, risk of a lawsuit telling me about this girl's IEP, but I get it. Then Ms. Johnson says, well, let me make you a fresh cup of coffee, a macchiato, the way you like it. And I say, no, ma'am, absolutely not. I'm going to keep this cup of coffee. And she says, why? Because you've explained why it's got salt in it. Now, I might ask you to direct me to near CVS so a brother can get a blood pressure cuff and not drop dead in these streets, but I'm going to keep the coffee. Now, who would keep that coffee? Who would accept that because, and replace IEP with any of the other descriptors? Unmotivated, poor white, poor black, poor brown, doesn't speak the King's English. You would never keep that cup of coffee. In fact, if you were asked to consult, what would you consult? What advice would you give Starbucks? What would they need to do to fix this situation? Train her to make that coffee. Now, my premise is this, and I'm going to be done in 2 minutes. My premise is this. Every educator tells me the same thing. Use differentiation, hands-on, label assault, use video, hands-on instruction, mentor. That's what Starbucks should do no matter where the kid comes from. If they're a barista, they got to know how to make that. But in schools, we don't do that. As soon as we find out Nicole's got an IEP, that changes. On the front end, our expectations change. As soon as we find out she's from another country and doesn't speak the King's English, well, really the Spanish-speaking countries, really mostly. It's really Spanish, mostly, because if they're from an Asian country, what, they're going to be gifted in about 30, 35 minutes? What do we say? And we will it so. And we will it so. But my point is this. At schools, we would change that. We wouldn't have Nicole make that macchiato that way. We'd have to make the remedial caramel macchiato, or the modified caramel macchiato, or the remedial pre-caramel macchiato, the third-degree double Dutch modified macchiato, or the special parallel vertical caramel macchiato. We level down. That's what defenders do. We level down. We got 5 algebras before algebra. There's only one algebra. We keep creating lower and lower groups. But you wouldn't accept that from Starbucks. Well, you know, she was in the low group. You'd never accept that. And so I maintain, and I'm going to slide forward just a little bit, I'm going to maintain that every curricular area, every area in science and mathematics has a bar. And the bar is made up of the most essential targets every student must master to be successful at the next grade level, the next course, the high-stakes assessment, and life beyond the K-12 system. And once you identify that bar, those essentials from every quarter that every student must know and be able to do, then your judgment is out of the picture because they're essential. Once you deem them essential, every student must master them. And that will help you assume nothing and provide phenomenal opportunities to not only identify those who come in with giftedness, but also gift them. That's our work. Not to just look for the gifted, but to gift students with an opportunity. That's the kind of influences we are. Don't ever let labels determine how far a student can go or what kind of influence you have. Ever. Our work is to establish the bar and take kids to and through that bar. It's not raising the bar, lowering the bar, there's just one bar. Let's be about the business of gifting. Gifting students. Not just looking for the gifted. And once we do that, we're betting on us. Everyone in the building. Kids win because of what we do. Kids win because of what we do. I want to thank you for this opportunity to work with you this afternoon. I'm going to leave my contact information on the screen, as I know I've run over some, but I want to give you an opportunity to contact me if you need to. I really believe in all my heart and soul that you really are the vanguards of this revolution where we uncap our thinking about what kids are able to do and achieve through our influence. There's no chance, no destiny, no fate that will circumvent, hinder, or control the firm resolve of a determined soul. Thank you very much. I look forward to our paths crossing again. Oh, thank you.